According to the assessment of military experts, the vast majority of traces, including the elements found, indicate the Russian KH-101 missile. This is a cruise missile capable of carrying payloads, and it is also very likely that an explosion occurred here.
Has one of Putin's KH-101 cruise missiles actually hit NATO territory, forcing Poland to sound a red alarm after debris was found deep inside its own borders? Did this NATO nation scramble its F-16 fighters in response, only to see the incoming missile go unintercepted and crash directly onto Polish soil? Just how massive was this missile impact, as Prime Minister Tusk reveals a crater measuring 10 meters wide and more than 5 meters deep in the Polish countryside? Did this Russian KH-101 missile actually carry a live payload, as Poland now confirms that a genuine explosion very likely occurred at the crash site? The Ukraine war once again appeared to spill directly across a NATO border, as a missile crashed onto Polish territory during a massive overnight barrage. Poland confirmed on July 30th that the missile which crashed on its territory was most likely Russian in origin, based on early evidence gathered at the scene. Authorities discovered a large crater along with scattered missile debris in a remote field located in eastern Poland, near the village of Tarnowa Kolonia. Poland immediately scrambled its F-16 fighter jets the moment the missile was detected violating its national airspace during the overnight attack. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk stated that all available indications pointed directly toward a Russian-made KH-101 cruise missile being responsible.
We came here, above all, to point out to the services, including the prosecution, how important it is to quickly clarify all the circumstances of this dramatic, but fortunately consequence-free, event with no casualties or destruction, which involved the fall of this maneuvering ballistic missile here in the fields near Tarnowa Kolonia in the Lublin voivodeship. As is known, this was the result of a massive Russian operation. It was one of the largest attacks during this entire war on the whole territory of Ukraine. Bombs, missiles, and cruise missiles fell, including in western Ukraine, close to our border. As you already know, this is also clearly evident from the reports of our officers and generals, who have been on alert throughout the night, roughly since midnight, when confirmed information came in that the Russians were preparing such a massive attack. They have been continuously on their feet, monitoring these issues. It follows that the Ukrainians monitored the missiles right up to the Polish border and attempted to destroy those heading towards it. There's no reason to believe that the target was Poland, but two of these objects violated Polish airspace. One definitely did, as we have its traces here, while the other was detected near the Polish border. But it was a very brief signal, so there were no consequences associated with it. The soldiers were ready to shoot it down if the missile directly threatened built-up areas. Fortunately, it quickly fell in a location before any action was taken. The decision was not to shoot it down over an uninhabited area, where fortunately no dramatic circumstances occurred. As you know, the civilian population was warned with sirens. I know that we, as a society, are still learning how to handle situations in which each of us must respond appropriately to warnings, signals, and alarm sirens, but this is a separate topic. In any case, the minister will be available if there are any questions on this matter. We asked, as is known, about the most important issue from the perspective of geopolitics. Whose missile is it? You remember the situation. We have had this problem of interpretation several times. And of course, there is also Russian disinformation. I do not need to explain to anyone that Russia will stand on its head to clear its name and absolve itself of responsibility here. Together with Prime Minister Kosyniak, and respecting the prosecutor's recommendations not to prejudge the outcome of the proceedings and investigation, which are being conducted very quickly here, we are, of course, not making a final determination. However, according to the assessment of military experts, the vast majority of traces, including the elements found, indicate the Russian KH-101 missile. This is a cruise missile capable of carrying payloads, and it is also very likely that an explosion occurred here. The size of the crater, approximately 10 meters in diameter and more than 5 meters deep, shows that this was a very serious matter. I am in contact with most European leaders, and the Prime Minister will also say a few more words about this. The Americans are interested in participating in the investigation. I received expressions of solidarity and declarations of full support and assistance from the Prime Ministers and Presidents of the European Union. Not only from the Union, because the Prime Minister of Norway also reacted immediately. So we certainly will not be alone with this problem. We will, of course, examine every detail of the Polish state's response. It is important to me that this is not handled as it was in the past, when the first missile fell. You remember the situation near Bydgoszcz. Everything must be transparent, and people must be informed about everything. Immediately after our fighters and reconnaissance aircraft were deployed, along with a tanker from Germany, I received information from Prime Minister Kosyniak, who also, of course, informed the President. I am also in contact with the President. We will not only thoroughly examine every aspect of what happened on the Russian and Ukrainian sides. The Ukrainians have also offered assistance with the investigation. We will use the help of their experts. We will examine every element of the state's response so that every day, every week, and every month, our reactions become more effective. As we know, this war is full of surprises, and we have to learn very quickly about new situations and potential new threats.
The Polish Air Force claimed that Russia had fired somewhere between 20 and 22 KH-101 missiles at targets across Ukraine during this single overnight assault. 2 of those missiles were reportedly assessed as posing a direct threat to Polish territory, prompting the rapid scramble of fighter jets in response. This entire incident unfolded as Russia unleashed one of its largest missile and drone barrages of the war across the whole of Ukraine, reaching almost to the Polish border itself. Russia launched a massive overnight missile and drone barrage against targets across Ukraine in the early hours of July 30th. According to Ukrainian officials, Moscow fired 74 cruise, ballistic and hypersonic missiles during the large-scale overnight assault. Russia also launched 284 Shahid-type attack drones in one of the biggest coordinated aerial attacks of the war. Ukraine said its air defenses intercepted 55 missiles and destroyed 265 drones before they reached their intended targets. Powerful explosions rocked Kyiv, Lviv, and several other cities located hundreds of kilometers from the front line. Thousands of residents rushed into Kyiv's metro stations as air raid sirens sounded across the capital during the attacks. Ukrainian officials said at least 8 people, including children, were killed in the nationwide missile and drone strikes. More than 50 people were also reported injured across Kyiv, Lviv, Kryvyi Rih, and Poltava following the overnight bombardment. President Volodymyr Zelensky had warned just hours earlier that Russia was preparing a major overnight strike against Ukraine. Zelensky said strengthening protection against Russian missile attacks remained Ukraine's highest military priority. Volodymyr Zelensky said, and I quote, "I received a report from Air Force Commander Anatoly Krivonosko. The Russians prepared a massive attack several days ago, and there is a high probability that the strike will be carried out tonight. It is important that our partners fully understand what is happening, and that the protection of lives directly depends on their readiness, or lack thereof, to help us with air defense missiles. First and foremost, this concerns the United States and those partners that have Patriot missiles and can provide them to support our defense. Every partner knows what is needed and fully understands the consequences of marking time. Please, in all regions of Ukraine, pay attention to air raid alerts today and stay safe." Unquote. Ukraine's Air Force also said an F-16 fighter suffered an in-flight emergency while carrying out a combat mission during the attacks. The pilot ejected safely, while Ukrainian authorities said the cause of the in-flight incident remained under investigation. Amid Russia's large-scale assault, Poland said an unidentified projectile crashed inside its Lublin province near the Ukrainian border. Poland's military said the object landed roughly 95 kilometers from the border as Russian missiles flew across western Ukraine. Polish authorities scrambled fighter jets and placed air defense forces on alert as the Russian strike unfolded nearby. The attack came only days after Zelensky asked Donald Trump for a winter package of Patriot air defense missiles. Zelensky urged Washington to help protect Ukraine's critical energy infrastructure before the arrival of the winter season. Ukraine is seeking as many as 300 Patriot interceptor missiles to strengthen its air defense network before winter. Trump reportedly promised to try to assist Ukraine, but said U.S. interceptor stockpiles were already under growing pressure. Zelensky also held talks with Lockheed Martin and RTX on expanding joint missile production and defense cooperation.